Welcome to this installment of Thank You for Your Service. My name is Tom Heiser and I will be your host. Today we will be talking with World War II veteran James Houston, who was with the Army Air Corps from 1941 to 1945. Jim, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
You were in the Army Air Corps at the start of the war. Do you remember the start of the war? Do you remember Roosevelt's speech?
I remember that. I listened to that very seriously because actually it affected me because I didn't know what I was going to be doing.
So you were actually, when we spoke earlier, you were drafted before the war
Yeah,
started.
I didn't enlist. It was drafted.
And you were living in Wisconsin Rapids at the time?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So you got this nice letter.
What?
You got this nice letter from the government.
Yeah, right.
And basically said, we want you for the Army.
I guess, that was so long ago that I don't always remember all that. I just don't, it doesn't register.
Okay, that's no problem. We will work with that.
Yeah.
So you're drafted before the war starts, but you were not in the Army when the war started. You were still at home.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I was still home.
And you were probably, what, late teens, early 20s when that...
What?
How old were you when you were drafted into the Army?
I must have been 20.
Okay.
It was close to it. 41.
Okay. So when you got your letter, where did you go to go into the Army? What city did you go to?
Milwaukee.
Okay.
I was inducted in Milwaukee.
So you took a train from Wisconsin Rapids
Yeah.
to Milwaukee.
They put me in the train because it was done by the draft people in town, you see, who I knew were really good.
So they came and got you and took you to the train station and away you went.
Yeah.
Okay, do you remember much about when you got to Milwaukee? You had to get a physical and everything down there?
Yeah. I don't remember much about it. I know there was an awful lot of people there and a lot of men. Because they took in quite a few there at the time.
Did anybody else from Wisconsin Rapids go down to Milwaukee with you?
No. Well, there was a bunch there, but I didn't know many of them. I didn't know any of them.
Okay.
There was nothing that I went in with nobody that I actually knew.
So you got down to Milwaukee. Do you remember going to basic training?
Now you got me because I didn't get any.
You didn't get any basic training?
I got started in that, but they told me something about armors, and so I left it and took up the armor job.
Okay. But you were in the Army Air Corps.
Yep. Army Air Corps.
Okay, where did you first get involved with the Army Air Corps? Was it in Milwaukee or were you at another Army base somewhere? Do you remember?
Well, I think they listed it all in Milwaukee. They gave me the information there that I needed. But I didn't really care actually what was going on. But the Army Air Corps was where I was first in.
So you were drafted into the Army Air Corps.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember where you first went after Milwaukee at all, or did you go to like Fort Leonard Wood or?
No, I went to school, armament school, in Colorado, Denver, Colorado.
So you got on a train in Milwaukee and away you went to Denver.
Yeah. Yeah.
About how long a trip was that? Do you remember, like 2 or 3 days?
No, I don't think, it might have been pretty close to that, yeah.
Okay.
Because I know how the troop trains, they didn't travel fast. They were real controlled, actually.
So you got on the troop train, bunch of other soldiers, everybody's headed to Denver.
What was?
So you got on the troop train, and everybody's headed out to Denver then.
Yeah, right.
A lot of other people on the train with you?
Oh yeah, I didn't get involved with anybody, though. I didn't know who they were.
So now you're in Denver. Did they send you to school out there?
Yeah, there was an armored school there.
So what did they try to teach you?
They taught me about guns, the machine guns. It started with the 30 caliber small guns, and then they got into the 50 caliber machine guns, which they were on the airplanes. All of those are in the airport.
Okay. So you spent about a month out there, or a little bit longer maybe, going to school?
No, I don't really know. The school wasn't very long. And right now, I don't know where I went from there, actually. I would say went down to Davis Monson Field in Arizona,
Okay.
Tucson, Arizona. That was where the first one I landed on. It was a great big base, and they had a lot of planes there and a lot of men around there. Of course, it's a big place. I think it still is, actually.
So you had more school while you were there, or is that where you were based out of?
No, the only school we went to was the one armored school, and after that, things got that I learned a lot of it myself. They give you an assignment or something, and so on. That's all I know.
Okay, so after there, did you go over to the Pacific and serve, or did you stay in the United
I
States?
flew over to go to British Dinner Service, and I went with the ground crews and flew with them.
Okay. So did you go out into the Pacific?
No. What do you mean going out to there? No.
During the war, did you stay in the United States during the war, or did you get into Europe, or did you go to Pacific?
I went across the Pacific
Okay.
from California. That's where I left it, in California.
Okay. So where did you fly to out of California? Do you recall?
I couldn't tell you. I don't know.
Was it out into one of the islands in the ocean, like Hawaii?
Yeah. Well, we went through Hawaii.
Okay.
We landed there and didn't stay long, but we landed and then took off again. You see, then from there we went into I just don't. That was too much to recall. I don't know just what happened in that time.
Okay. But you did most of your service in the Pacific Ocean area, like Guam or in that area.
In that the South Pacific area.
Okay.
I think it is South Pacific area. Yeah.
So was it Mariana Islands?
Huh?
Was it Mariana Islands?
That's where I ended up in Mariana Islands.
Okay.
And the one island that we were based on was Tinian.
Tinian.
A little island, yeah.
So when you were there with the ground crews, what was your job when you were at the Tinian?
Well, they assigned me as I don't remember the title they gave me, but it was because if any drugs or chemical warfare happened, that was my job. I was the head of that, which I didn't do any of it. We didn't have any of that.
But just in case you were...
That's it. I was there for it, yeah.
You don't remember what unit that was or anything like that, what the name of the unit was that you served with?
No, it was all, well, it was in our first, it was in the 24th Squadron, 6th Bomb Group, in 20th Air Force.
Okay.
In the 20th Air Force, well, that was made for B-29s when they put them out.
So what else did you do? Were you like a mechanic, or you?
No, I was loading bombs. I was an armor, and of course I took care of the guns, kept them working if they needed it in the States. But we didn't, if we were still in the base, we had to take care of them. But when the crews got into the planes, we didn't touch on them. The crews did all of it. 'cause they knew that those guns were important to them.
But you said you helped load bombs onto the planes.
We loaded plenty of bombs, yes. First, the most of them were fire bombs because Japan was burnable. So they went up with fire bombs, and what didn't burn, they went up with demolition and blew it up.
Okay. So the planes that you worked on were working towards Japan as far as bombing and everything, because you were in there from...
Their big idea, their big objection was Japan. And that's what they were there for. Those are the B-29s. I can remember when they first come onto the island with the 29s. So I was there beside the runways, and I was watching for the first landing of a 229, and it was a surprise to us because we'd never seen them yet. But we were assigned to B-29s.
Pretty big.
Yeah.
So did you ever go up inside one of the B-29s?
Did I fly?
Or did you just go inside and...
I didn't fly in one, only once during the war was over at the time. They took prisoner supplies to Japan. But I flew one, in one, and he went over, and he didn't come back to land, and he was closed up. So he went out and flew around over the Pacific area, and we had a little bit of a flight. But that's the only time I was in a 29 and flying. Okay. Otherwise, I was in them all the time.
Not a lot of room inside those planes, are there?
Huh?
There's not a lot of room inside the plane.
No.
It's pretty tight.
Well, that was the big start of the big airplanes, you know. Of course, now they're big. The planes are all bigger. Not in the Army. It's all the civilian planes are all bigger.
So when you load the bombs on the planes, a lot of them come back shot up, or a lot of bullet holes in them, or...
I never saw, not too many shot up, but I saw a couple that come back with a part of the plane missing, like the tail section and so on. But they never really lost the plane in combat. I wouldn't call it combat because we weren't in a combat area. Our base the base was quite a ways away from any combat. I didn't have any combat use on it at all. I was in combat at all.
But yet but sometimes planes did not come back. Some would get shot down, or...
No, we didn't lose any planes that way. They all came back. They might have been damaged or something, but they all came back.
That's quite the record, because you hear of so many times, so many planes getting lost. You sometimes hear about planes getting lost, but that's quite a record when none of your planes were lost.
Well, they didn't. They had pretty good. Of course, they had protection going along with them. Some of them, not all the time, but most of the time.
So where you were stationed was just B-29s. Were there fighters there also, or just the B-29s pretty much?
There were fighters, but on the base where we were, but they weren't in close to by. I didn't go to any of their bases at all. I didn't know who was there exactly. But there was Navy there. They were there with their bases. And see, that was the big airport there for B-29s. I think they had at one time over 1,000 B-29s there, base there.
That is a big base.
Yes, it was.
What was the weather like over there for you? Hot?
What?
Was the weather pretty hot over there for you?
No, the weather was pretty good while I was there. I didn't get into real rough weather. I don't know what they had there. I didn't know what the climate is.
What was it like living there? What was your housing like? Was it a lot of you in one building?
When we went there was all cornfields around. And so they put up tents for us and so on. We lived in tents for some time, not too awfully long, but they started right away building barracks. So we were in barracks afterwards.
A lot of mosquitoes and bugs?
Well, they never bothered me, so I don't know. That part of it I couldn't tell you.
How was the food?
They had pretty good cooks. We had pretty good food. We didn't go without much.
Because sometimes being that far away, supplies are hard to get there, in a timely fashion.
Now they got their supplies were back pretty good. They got everything in pretty good. Of course, there was an awful lot of cargo planes that were flying, and they were loading with them a lot. See, our planes were just they were a 4-engine plane, and they were good. And of course, now when we flew over, because the squadron flew over, I went in with the ground crew, but I flew. And the regular planes, they come through with a spare engine in the bomb bay. Of course, I don't know what they would have done with it when they were flying. They couldn't do nothing with it. But they had the engines over there when they landed. And they needed them because the first planes had a lot of bugs in the engines. And when they got them big bugs cleared out and the planes were flying good, you couldn't be anything better. See, each plane had 2 crews. So they kept flying like that, right off. They come in and go right back out, most of the time.
So you would have a crew in the air and a crew on the ground?
Oh, yeah.
So the planes would come back and they'd refuel them, and then the other crew would get on and away they'd go.
That's right. They would go. But if there was nothing wrong with them, they would go right back up. And of course, they did take there was a lot of work being done on the planes all the time. That was part of my job on the plane. I was an inspector of the aircraft and the armament of the aircraft. So I could have stopped any flight if I wanted to, but I didn't have to. They were all good.
I was going to say, you probably got pretty busy when that plane landed because they wanted to turn it around pretty quick, didn't they?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They went over it quick and looked it over good quick, and then it was ready to go. Yeah.
So usually when a plane landed, how long did you have to get that plane back in the air again?
God, like that I couldn't tell you because I wasn't acquainted with what the engineers did, the mechanics.
So did they want the planes back in the air in like 4 hours, 5 hours, or a lot less than that?
Actually, I don't know. I don't know whether they gave any time on them or not.
Did you make some friends while you were over there?
Well, I knew most of the crew that I had. My crew, I had a bomb loading crew of about 10 to 12 men. I don't know how many it was. And that they split us up in that for bomb loading when we had to do that. Mm-hmm. And if we loaded our planes right and get them done, and if there was any empty ones around, then we went and loaded them. So kept them going.
So your average day over there, you were working all the time. When a plane would land, your plane would land, you'd get her going again?
Yeah, except the times that we were back in the area. We were, most of the time, we were out down on the line most of the day. And then, of course, sometimes we were in the bivouac area, they called it.
So there were times when you worked at night too then, weren't there?
Oh yeah, there were times when we had to work at night. Because we did a lot of the loading at night, actually. And when we were loading bombs, like the first bomb, the 100-pounders for the fire bombs, that was all done by hand. And when the bombs got bigger, everything was loaded with hoists. So we didn't have them by hand, but we, of course, we still had to be there. We loaded the big bombs with the hoist, and some of it was Navy equipment, and some of it wasn't.
But you were in the Army Air Corps.
Yeah.
Okay. And when you weren't doing your job, loading bombs and working on planes, what were you guys doing?
I didn't do nothing but to get out of the way and go back and rest up in the tents or the barracks. It was all barracks at that time then.
So playing cards and just
What?
playing cards at all, or
No.
things like that?
No. We didn't know. See, we didn't know too many of the crews themselves for the flight crews. We didn't know too many of them, but because they come in to fly, they come and got in their planes. But it was all done more or less automatically, you know, kept going.
So your plane would take off and it'd be gone for several hours, and then they come wake you up or tell you that your plane is coming back and to get ready?
Yeah. Of course, you see, it wasn't a nonstop flight to Japan. Let's see now, Iwo Jima was in between there, and they landed on there, and then took off again.
Okay.
So that was the end point, the middle point of things on that one.
So you were assigned to one plane specifically, your crew, but you would help out on other ones.
Yeah, that's right. We had an assignment on one plane. And I don't know what number it was because there were too many of them, but we did work on everything else. We went on them. If it needed to be done, if that plane needed to be loaded and nobody else was there, we loaded them. And that's the way it kept going.
So did a lot of planes stop at your base to refuel and then keep going, or not really?
No, it wasn't a refueling base. But of course, they had a lot of fuel there. They take care of them if they needed it. Sure. But there wasn't too many small planes flying around. Just the big ones.
Okay.
There, of course, some were cargo planes, but.
Did you receive any awards or medals for your work when you were over there?
Did I what?
Did you receive any medals or awards?
No, not when I was over there. What I got is after what I knew about it, actually, some of it, it was on my uniform when they issued it to me when I went home. I didn't even know part of it, but I've got them. They're on their uniform. They're still there.
Okay. So did you see any USO shows at all, or didn't any come through that you
I
can
don't.
remember?
I saw them, a couple of them, but I don't remember them at all.
Okay.
I don't remember even who I saw. There were some stars, but I didn't remember who they were.
Were you married at the time when you were in service?
Yeah.
So you read a lot of letters back and forth?
Oh yeah. I wrote letters. I communicated a bunch to my wife, and of course, she wasn't around at the time. She was born after the war.
Okay. So about how long, when you'd write a letter to your wife or she would write to you, about how long would it take for you to get that letter? 6 months, 6 weeks?
Well, I never really figured it out. I don't know. Sometimes I guess it took quite a while, and sometimes it didn't. I didn't pay any attention to that, actually. If I had mail come in, I took care of it or read it or whatever, and that was it.
Did you keep a journal or a diary or anything like that of what your everyday work was? Okay.
Nothing. I didn't write nothing down that was happening or anything.
Were you able to go on leave at all, or
Not while I was overseas, but beforehand I did. I left. I had one leave that I went home again and saw my. Well, that was when my son had been born. I saw him, and then I come back to the service.
so while you were out in the Mariana Islands, you weren't able to take any leave at all or go anyplace special? When you were out in the islands, you weren't able to take a leave or anything?
No, well, some did. They'd get off to go to some small towns or something. I never did that. I never got out of the, well, what do you say, off the area at all. I didn't care to. I just kept myself busy some way, and that was it.
While you were over there, scared? Were you scared at all?
No.
Okay.
We were alerted once. They thought they were going to be attacked there, but they didn't come. Japan at that time didn't have much supplies left. We could see there was a small Roto island, name of Roto, and we could see the Japs on it, and they could see us, but they didn't have any ammunition left. So we just left them alone. They didn't bother them.
That's interesting. They didn't bother them, and you didn't bother them?
Yeah.
Okay, you were in the Army Air Corps, and then it split off. What happened when they split?
When I what?
When the Air Corps was no longer attached to the Army, you stayed with the Army, or?
Well, it wasn't any different actually. It was done all in paper, and it ended up to just a regular Air Force, and it wasn't nothing any different. Because I don't know whether it helped any or not, because I have no idea why they did that, but they did. They did it while I was there.
Okay. So what rank did you finally make in the, when you were in service, what rank did you finally get up to?
Staff sergeant.
So staff sergeant, you
I
were in
was
charge
a
of a few
staff
people.
sergeant. Huh?
You were in charge of a few people then.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. Of course. Well, I had the camp, and my bomb loading crews. I said I don't remember the number it was in, but 10 or 20 people maybe, and that was the rank I had when I was discharged, was staff sergeant. I was on a TO, which that's a transport. That's an order to go out and going over. And I was on that. It was a new outfit, new squadron, new everything. And I was listed as a staff sergeant or as a sergeant of the armored shop. It would have been the master sergeant, but I never made it because they took the order out and they didn't move. Just the way things are done in the service.
So you got out before the war ended.
Yep.
Okay. How were you able to do that? Because so many people said that they had to stay in from the beginning till the end, but you were able to get out.
That I don't remember. I just know we were gone. We were ready to go. We ended up, after a bunch of flights around in different troop trains, we ended up in Camp McCoy. That's where I was discharged at, Camp McCoy.
Okay. So any good memories of your time when you were in service?
Not really. I to tell you what I did, I put it all out of my mind a lot of the times.
Okay.
Just got rid of it. And so that's why I survived there. I didn't have any problems. Like some did, they were lonesome or whatever, and I never did, never had problems like that.
So you're out of the service now. You're back in Wisconsin Rapids.
Yeah.
VJ Day.
Huh?
VJ Day, Victory Over Japan Day.
Yeah.
Pretty good day for you?
Yeah. Well, I went back to my job. I had a job waiting for me, and I went back to that. And a short while, I asked them to give me transfer me to the mechanics end of the shop. I said no, they couldn't do that because they did it a different way. So I said okay. So I went and found myself a job and got out of the service completely. That's when I went into mechanics
Okay.
with a local shop in town, in the garage.
Where did you work once you got back to Wisconsin Rapids? Do you remember?
Well, my first job was with L.E. Jensen's garage. I was a mechanic there in training, actually. I was in training then for mechanics, which didn't last long. They decided, well, it would be better for us too to get you out of that and breathe normal again. So that's the way it went. Because I knew the guy, the son in that camp, he had married a cousin of mine from Green Bay, so it was more or less in the family.
So then where did you go to work?
Boy, I was in different places, I'll tell you that. At one time, I was superintendent of buildings and grounds in the Rapids. It's a school district. And that was a big one. It was a long job. It was many daily days. It was what you get called in the middle of the night or whatever. No matter what happened, I was called. And that didn't, for some reason, it didn't last too long. I couldn't get along with some of the school board members, and they had the charge of everything.
Right. So did anything you learned in the military help you after you got out of the military?
Nothing helped me from the military, no.
Okay.
Other than how to take orders and so on.
Anything else that you'd like to share with us, Jim?
Well, not much. I tell you, some of these guys didn't know much about, well, let's say marching and so on in the Army. And I knew a lot of it because I learned in school. In our Phi Ed, we had a teacher by the name of Torzani. And he taught us how to march and how to salute and so on. So I knew all of that kind of stuff before I got in the service. And it helped some, but the service deal wasn't any different, so it went right along with it. But that was when actually where my first instructions were on that kind of stuff, on the marching, how to move and how to turn and so on.
And you learned all that in high school?
Yeah, no, before that, down in grade school. The instructor was there for years, and I had him from my instructors on up, all the way through school, even through the high school. And so I knew him real well. He was a nice man.
Okay, so when you were at the Tinian Islands, the Enola Gay
Yeah,
was also on that island.
yeah,
The plane that dropped The atomic bomb in Japan.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about what you know about that plane.
Well, I don't know anything about it other than it was a regular aircraft, and it was the commander of our group that flew it. I don't know whether his name was Gibson or not, but it was that way. And couldn't tell you anything more about it. They didn't have any problems. Of course, it was I forget. You know, when that big bomb, they didn't have. It was not as big as you think it was, but and it was just fused with dynamite. That's what they put into it to blow it up. Now I don't know what altitude he would come on, but it blew off before it hit. It was up in the air yet.
So did you actually see the atomic bomb?
Did he see it?
Yes.
No,
Okay.
no. I saw some that were close to it maybe, but I didn't see that. Because it wasn't that big. I think that the weight wasn't much over 300 pounds on that bomb. So we had a lot of them bigger than that. We had Navy ships, Navy bombs and mines that they mined the rivers there. And I remember just one instance of that they were either, I don't know the names of it now, what they call it, but there were two kinds that were, one was from explosives, that was the bombs, and also of sound. And so we had one big Navy ship, Navy mine that was over 1,000 pounds. And it started ticking. Oh, she says, okay, get that darn thing out of there, but get it out quick. And that's all they told us. And they took it off somewhere and blew it up. Because the Navy crews were all there too. Always were there. Yeah, that was so much. And they had Navy stuff on the mine. Well, it was mostly mines because that's what they were there for. They went up, took them up and mined them in the rivers in Japan. They went right into them. When I went bombing over there, was just bombing. They didn't bomb the palace of Japan at all. They bombed all around it. They didn't touch it. Yeah.
So the Enola Gay, a B-29, was at your base, and that plane was active before it dropped the atomic bomb. That plane was in service before it dropped.
Oh, yeah. But it never flew afterwards. They said it was every rivet in the plane was loosened. So that means quite a thing, quite a bit. And they never flew it. But there was some of the crews, I know, they barnstormed through the States, I think. But that's all I know. I didn't hear nothing else.
Okay, I also see that you were fortunate enough to go on the honor flight.
Yep.
Pretty nice flight.
That was a good flight, yes. It was a long day, but it was all right. Of course, I didn't, it was at a time where I wasn't feeling too good that day, but I didn't let anybody know because I wanted to go.
So what do you think of the World War II Memorial?
That was quite a sight. It's quite a sight. Of course, I guess we didn't see it at night at all because we were already gone. But it's beautiful then too, I guess, as far as I know. But it's big. It's a big place. Yeah.
Anything else you'd like to add, Jim, now that we've
No, I don't know of any. There was a couple incidents during the service that happened, but not much. We were in our tents one day. It was still in tents. And a guy come running in there with his carbine, and all of a sudden he pulled the trigger. He let it go. But that was just one thing that I noticed and I saw. I had one was that guy. He liked chocolate, and he had a heavy bar of chocolate for some kind. I don't know what it was, but he was on his leg, and he was trying to break it up with a knife, and it went down through. The knife went right down into his leg. So that's another thing that I can remember, but I don't remember anything that means anything. Yeah, I don't know.
You've shared a lot of good information with us, Jim. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for your service again. I can't thank you enough.
Yeah.